Hello, and welcome to a new update from the Markets Middleman. Today is Monday, June 29, and I'm about to share with you my preparations going into this beautiful week. So, without further ado, as usual, starting from the DXY, the weekly time frame, the driver of all markets. So, the DXY after this weekly close, okay, just reminding you that the DXY had broken out from a 1 year range of consolidation, and probably it's about to continue higher, at least to reach this weekly buy side slash monthly imbalance over here. Maybe any continuation into this weekly order block that I spoke about last update within this engineered around this weekly bearish fair value gap. But what is happening right now and what last week confirmed is a bullish imbalance on the weekly time frame. So notice after price swept the sell side, consolidated, made an internal BOS, then correction, and after the news, price closed this week above the buy side, marking a BOS, and last week also preserving this bullishness, and we haven't seen a sharp rejection yet. So for today, on the weekly time frame, I want to see this weekly imbalance get mitigated or balanced, and then anticipate a continuation to the upside. Moving on to the daily time frame, what does the daily suggest? I spoke about the possibility of price just continue going higher since last week, and this is exactly what happened because there was really like a lot of bullish and buying pressure on the DXY, knowing this just by simply looking into the candles on the daily time frame. Up until Thursday, price took a break, consolidated a little bit, took this daily imbalance, but this imbalance is not coming off the discount. So it's still within the premium. And to know this, there's a very simple tool that you can use, which is the Fibo level. It's just a metric that show me where price is. If price is above the 50%, then still expensive to buy if I'm overall bullish. But I wait if it's below the 50%, at or below the 50%, then price is considerable cheap for me to buy from a discount. So notice at this level we have the weekly imbalance, we have the daily order block, and the 50% retracement from all of this wave. So I keep on following the trend, taking this as the last low, protected low, and this is the high target. But if price does not respect the lower time frame or the hourly time frame discount, then I just switch into the external leg, marking this is the protected low and this is the target high. So I'm gonna wait on the daily time frame to tap into this weekly imbalance slash the AOI on the daily time frame, and here I want to see a reversal pattern on the hourly time frame, probably targeting last week's high and the monthly imbalance. So this is all I need from DXY in order for me to know how I can translate this on the rest of the assets. Moving on to EU, it's literally the inverse of DXY. And whatever I see on the DXY, I just pose it into the euro. So we have the same thing. And the good thing about the weekly time frame is that it confirmed a bearish break of structure by closing below this recent sell side as well as this sell side over here. Even though with few pips, but this is more than enough to tell me or to give me an indication that this week's low can or have high chance to be taken only after a retracement. Now, where this retracement could take place, again, we also have a weekly imbalance on EU. So I think the high of this last week is the beginning of the weekly imbalance. Maybe if price continues a little bit higher, is to take the is to balance all of the weekly fair value gap and tap into this weekly order block over here, anticipating a continuation lower into this weekly low as well as this sell side and ultimately this sell side over here. So nothing changed in terms of the trend. We're still seeing lower lows and lower highs on the daily time frame. With this being set as the major high, major low, high and low with continuation lower, and even within this trend, we're still seeing a very healthy downtrend showing us lower lows, lower highs, lower highs, lower lows. So this becomes the area of interest that I'm watching for EU. Now I know that there's a daily imbalance over here and there's a big chance for price to balance it, but at the same time it depends on how deep the DXY would retrace from there. I can correlate this into GU for example, and if price show me the possibility that it's gonna retrace from the weekly imbalance, then I'm gonna be in at the weekly imbalance and I'm not gonna wait the daily. Maybe it will be balanced later on. Or if I see price that's approaching this level without giving any reversal signs, then yes, I would be waiting for the daily imbalance to be balanced and then a continuation to the downside. Now, looking a little bit deeper on the 1 hour and just seeing how the market opened and what price is telling me today, the following. So we had the market open. I set here as an SMT, but it is not an asset SMT. It's just an SMT between different brokers. So on FXCM, the broker that I use for charting on TradingView, it didn't take the low. But on Oanda, for example, or Euro futures, it already swept this low and marking a internal change of character on the 1 hour time frame, making this the external high that price would definitely target. So there's a high chance that the high of Friday will be taken. So what price did today created two 1 hour imbalances. It balanced this 1 hour fair value gap without inverting the first one. So still managed to balance this one and close above this fair value gap, which is a very important information for me to understand that yes, there is some buying pressure into the daily open on Monday. So there are few different ways on how I can approach the markets. I know first that the first draw on liquidity is the weekly fair value gap. So I have a clear draw on liquidity, sorry, on the weekly time frame, and I have the high of Friday. So notice where price retraced back into 1 hour breaker and then created this internal change of character again. So it's just a matter of continuation to the upside. So short term, I can be bullish on EU. Either a sweep into this low and an immediate rejection for continuation higher, or simply tomorrow a breakout of this range targeting this buy side, or overall a continuation and a break of structure to the upside, creating a higher time frame imbalance, probably on the 4 hour time frame, retracing back into it, and then pushing higher into the weekly fair value gap. I think if price is gonna continue higher into the weekly time frame, I think it will show us a potential push to the upside, or potential setup, sorry, to the upside. If all of this couldn't happen, here's Monday low, okay? If this was some sort of manipulation to get in some early buyers, especially that we have a huge SMT with GU, and if I see something like this without respecting this level much, if Tuesday sweep Monday's low, I have very nice sell side liquidity. I'm not gonna turn directly bearish over here. I'm gonna observe price. Let's just fix it and show you an example of how I can prepare into different scenarios. Okay, I am still a buyer unless I see a immediate displacement below the sell side. I'm switching to get back seller since the overall trend is selling. But noticing the draw on liquidity, one draw on liquidity, two, I think that price needs to sweep something, needs to generate some liquidity before it resume the downtrend. So I'm taking a little bit of time here because this is how I think about the price, and this is what I want to see from price in order for me to participate. So to sum it up, and by the time I post my recording a little bit, I saw that the 1 hour had already broken to the upside. So this scenario of sweeping Monday low gets a little bit low probable. So I'm going to focus on internal BOS, continuation to the upside. The only thing is that I don't like to enter a trade after New York close, which is going to be after 15 minutes, because what usually happens is a little bit of consolidation and then going into the next day. But what I think will be the setup for the upcoming Tuesday is the following. If I see a full continuation to the upside, if price offered me a nice reaction into this area over here before it takes this buy side, tomorrow I can be a buyer into this buy side. And let's assume that price is going to continue higher, creating some imbalances over here, then I'm going to be waiting for a 50% retracement of this push to the upside for a continuation until this high slash the weekly fair value gap, since I have very nice draw on liquidity to the upside. Unless something like this happens and price really struggle to push higher than Friday's high and I get an immediate rejection closing below the protected low, only then I can be short into Monday's low. So also I keep all scenarios in my awareness, because really anything can change in those markets, and especially in Forex. And this is one of the main reasons why I love this market, because it really provides you different scenarios. Bias can change from a day to another. So this is why I share with you multiple different scenarios. When the setup is not fully there yet, I share with you different scenarios. But when I'm very sure of the system and what the price is showing me, yes, I show you a very definite area of interest with a definite plan for you to trade on spot, and not just general ideas and areas of interest here and there. So I hope to be more specific in the upcoming 6 months of this year in terms of the entry modules, what I really see in a more organized way. But this is just a process for me to get better in sharing my ideas overall, because this is allowing me also myself to watch my videos again and really implement new stuff and improve the way I'm delivering my ideas, and it also reflects on my personal behavior and personal performance. So with that being said, I think it's enough for EU. Unless something very special happens, I'm going to make another update. But for now, I think you're well equipped for any potential scenario that might play out during this week. Moving on to GU on the weekly time frame, I want you to notice the difference between EU and GU. So EU closed well below this sell side, and it already closed below the sell side for EU. So there's some bullish SMT between EU and GU overall, as like on the higher time frame as strength for the GU. But still, the last week closed well below this weekly breaker over here, which held price for 1, 2, and 3 weeks, and it is engineered within a weekly imbalance. But I will show you on the daily time frame why I am not gonna be aggressively shorting from the start of the weekly fair value gap. But overall, I think price is still bearish, and it's a matter of time for retracing up and then continuing lower into this sell side. Because again, price raided this range high within this candle here on January, and the objective for price is to raid the range low. Okay, so it generated the buy side, swept it, generated a sell side, and it's about to sweep it. Maybe, of course, there's nothing for sure in price, but this is a high potential to observe for the upcoming few weeks. Now, this is why I'm not going to be aggressively shorting the GU from the weekly fair value gap. Notice that the weekly fair value gap starts from here. Okay, and again, when I want to short, I want to make sure that I'm shorting from the premium. So where the premium starts is this level over here. So I mark my fib level from this high to this external low, and this is the 50% FIBO level. So anything before the 50% FIBO level is not in premium yet. So it's preferably to wait until price reaches the 50% slash the weekly breaker and the daily fair value gap. So notice the daily fair value gap on GU is more realistic to be balanced than EU, and it also depends on what is more strong, which asset is stronger than the other, whether EU or GU. It really plays out a role in waiting a deeper correction on one asset but accepting a shallow retracement on the other. So this is part of the correlation that we can talk about more in future videos. But for now, I'm gonna be waiting for price to reach this level over here slash the area of interest starting from 1.33 around this level. So quick view on the 1 hour time frame and what price did for today after sweeping the sell side. This was the last high created before breaking the structure to the downside from those two lows and this low over here. That's why when price closed back above this specific high on Thursday, it refused to go bearish again, created a shallow BOS above this high again, refusing to close below this protected low, and especially today it made an internal change of character, 1 hour fair value gap, and then also raided this buy side and also closed a couple of hours above this BOS over here. So I'm overall short-term bullish on the GU, and my game plan for tomorrow is the following. I'm going to be waiting for a retracement almost 50% of this last BOS to the upside on the 4 hour time frame. I have this breaker block over here. I called it breaker on the 6 hour because it's also visible on the 6 hour. It's also a liquidity on the 12 hour. So there's really no difference between the hourly time frame when it comes to this level. So, but just for visual purpose, and on the 4 hour it's really nice, simple, higher highs, higher lows, anticipating the next lower high would be around the breaker block over here on a closing basis, retrace, and a continuation to the upside, of course, following with the lower time frame confirmation here on the 15 minutes or even on the 5 minutes time frame. So this is my plan for GU. Once price reach this level over here, I'm gonna pause my buying bias, and then let's hypothetically say that price reaches this level and broken the structure to the downside. Whenever I see this market structure shift, I'm going to be waiting for a retracement and then a continuation to the downside for the overall bearish trend. So this is really for GU, clean and clear target for this week. Now, last but not least is gold, and I think that gold is showing us really amazing trend. Beautiful swing highs, swing lows, clear break of structure, etc. So I think the draw on into the monthly time frame, monthly fair value gap is still open, and especially that price were able to close below the sell side, marking yet another bearish break of structure. Now, again, same principle. The trend is still bearish. There's nothing changed for gold, and the area of interest, again, at the premium, at or above the premium comes the 50% FIBO level. Now where the 50% is engineered this time, it's engineered around a daily order block followed by a daily fair value gap. So this is the only up closing day within this leg to the downside. So this is really important liquidity for price. So for gold, I'm not sure if it's gonna go up from here or sweep Friday's low and then go up, but what I know is that it's still early to short gold from here. It's actually not in premium. So I'm gonna be focusing at this level. On the hourly time frame though, if there's a chance for me to take a short term buy setup, I'm gonna wait for price to tell me so. So I'm gonna wait for a breaker, maybe another sweep, a clear break of structure above this high, an imbalance over here. Without reaching the daily order block, I'm gonna be buying gold into the daily order block. Now over here, of course, I'm gonna pause my buying bias and wait for a rejection and a reversal sign in order for me to continue selling gold until this engineered sell side from last week. So really very nice price action on gold. The only thing you have to avoid from gold is when it's correcting. Okay, so I really don't know if we're gonna have a sweep and then a reversal from here, or the sweep was already done within this candle and the break of structure was already done, followed by a BOS, retracing into the OTE, and we're just gonna follow through from here. But it's really difficult for me to find a setup right now. At least, let's say we're working on the 1 hour time frame. We want to wait for at least one bullish change of character, at least a close above this buy side. Why this buy side? Because it was the last high created before we raided this low again. So for now, this is the protected low. This is the target high as well as the daily order block. So at least a nice push above this high with a fair value gap showing me that there's really bullish signs within this displacement to the upside. Or let's say price goes up without providing any bullish setup. Let's say I waited for a BOS above this high and then I can trade gold higher into this daily order block. Of course, I will change my mind if I see price just trades lower. Here there's really nice chance to sweep last week's low and reverse from here. But if I see price just keep on closing down, I'm gonna avoid buying gold and just focus on continuing the trend to the downside since the overall bias is still bearish. So this was my update for this week. Let's wait patiently. It had been a great month so far, and I'm about to recap June within this week, hopefully. And I'm just thinking about some new stuff to introduce into my trade recap. So if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comment section. I'm gonna leave you with this for now, and hopefully we're gonna have a great week ahead. Cheers, and see you in the next update.